Is College Necessary by Jubilee.
My
Well,
grandmother
maybe
being a
I
college
guess.
professor,
Pointless
when
and
she and my
dumb.
grandfather graduated from college and earned their master's degrees, they were literally able to take that to the bank as a down payment on a home. A college degree meant guaranteed income.
Okay, but does that mean that today?
Fuck no.
Dude, there's freaking PhD
Well, let's see where she's
professors
taking
that
it.
are living on government.
Yeah, let's see where she's
Government.
taking it. That could easily roll into
Welfare.
like
Jesus.
that could easily roll into like, man, shit got worse, you know?
Yeah, it'd be like, oh, maybe college is necessary today.
Used to be.
Yeah.
God, that's crazy. You could have a master's degree as a down payment? That's crazy.
Well,
That's
yeah,
true.
I mean, there's also when you get a car, you could say that you're a recent graduate,
Huh.
and that sort of helps you get like a lower percentage
Because you have
because yeah, like you're not just some schmuck who's out there in the world. You're a person who went to school.
you wanted more than a car.
Yeah,
Gotcha.
you wanted a dream. It probably didn't happen, but you know
They don't even know that.
Yeah, they don't even know. They just know that you have education, which means you're probably gonna get a higher paying job. Typically.
Middle ground.
Step forward if you agree with the prompt. My parents expected me to go to college.
A house or a laptop?
Ah.
Which one do you think is worth
Jesus.
more?
Jubilee.
Ah. Just gonna start screaming incoherently.
Even though my dad didn't go to college himself, he, went through a little bit of like an associate's degree, but his main thing was a photographer. And then my mom, being from Jamaica, completely different, education being her way of getting out of that kind of environment, poverty, things like that. She always wanted me to go to school, and they both put me through private school to better prepare me for college. So they kind of started me off on the path as soon as they could.
Growing up, I actually didn't even realize there was an option to not attend college.
That's fucked.
I thought that part was mandatory, but you may or may not.
Like, you just thought like, well, you believed it was like required. Like that's
For some
like,
people, it kind of is.
for some people it is because
Yeah.
well, like their parents will make them, but like just
Well-
not have an idea
Yeah.
that like there's other things out there. I
Well,
think that's also bad.
Like if you're like say on your say if you're on like a Section 8 like scheme or something,
yeah,
a lot of time the stipulation of you staying on it
is to go to
go
college.
to college.
Mhm.
So in a sense it is necessary, at least for a little bit. You could argue like, oh, like you do something else, but like you're not prepared to do shit, so it kind of funnels you into college, you know?
Mhm.
Okay. I
not
like your hat though.
graduate. It was
It's very,
very important to my
Very stylish.
It's very stylish, but it's also very what's like neckbeardy. She's a classy
fedora.
she's a classy neckbeard. Look at her.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
She's told. Okay.
grandmother as well being a college professor. And when she and my grandfather graduated from college and earned their master's degrees, they were literally able to take that to the bank as a down payment on a home. At the time,
See, that's how fucked up I am. I didn't even
Yeah.
know you could do that.
Like I know you could like with car loans you could do that. Like you basically get like a better deal, but not that like oh you can take be like hey this is worth $20,000 like, and I don't have to give you it. Like you're not gonna hold my degree.
I'll be
Like,
back.
Yeah.
Like, okay.
Man, oh,
Bet.
how the decades have rotted the American.
Sure. In about a week and a half, I'll be, I'll pay
Yeah.
about one down payment on the car and then drive to Canada.
a college degree meant guaranteed income.
My dad was always the type of person to say, get your degree, I don't care what it's in. So I always felt a little bit of flexibility about what specifically I wanted to do. And that's why I kind of took community college as a time to try a lot of different things and see what I'm interested in and not break the bank. My
Yeah.
Yeah, so you
Yeah.
can do that.
name is Pam and I'm pro college.
It's cheaper to do it. Put it to you like this: you go through a whole semester of community college. It costs you like, depending on where you go, of course, it costs you like $1,500, $2,000.
Versus if you go to like a 4-year or like a research school, it's gonna cost you thousands. It's probably
Tens of
yeah,
thousands.
like it'll cost you so much more.
Yeah. So yeah, no, that's legit. That's good advice. If you want
Yeah.
to try out stuff, do
And the
community.
thing is, if you go to a community, a lot of them are probably going to be more focused on, like teaching you and helping you through the class and being
Getting
more
you
interested in the
through.
students. Yeah, because a big problem with actually going to the bigger schools is that their professors are really hung up with doing research and doing things like making articles, making a book, and they may not have as much time to help the students.
There's a saying that I was hearing at OPCC a lot when I was still going there. It was we love you, but we want you gone.
Yeah. Well, it's
We love you, but we want you gone. We don't want you to be here anymore.
Well, I would say it would suck to see somebody be there for so long.
Exactly.
It's like
No,
to not find their way.
Exactly. You
Yeah.
shouldn't be there longer than 2-3 years, unless you have to go back for
Well,
like.
unless you're doing like a program.
Yeah, unless you gotta go
Like
back
there's
for
people
like,
who
a
go to
program.
like comp sci and they're like there for 3-4 years.
Some
because
people
it's
have
like-
to do it just to get
Yeah.
like a higher pay.
That, or you didn't line up your classes right and you did all of your like generals first, but then you didn't do all your science classes in the way that you do one every year. Because you can't do them. Like you can do multiple science classes in the same subject together in the same semester because one comes after the other. So you could be stuck there for an extra year or two because of that alone. Or you're just trying to find out what you're.
Or you're just bad.
The main thing that I feel like I missed out on by going to community college first was that I wasn't given the opportunity to pursue leadership roles in like clubs or.
Yeah, clubs are a little. I mean,
Wait,
like,
did she say that she wasn't able to pursue clubs?
she wasn't able to pursue leadership roles.
Oh yeah, well, the thing is, okay, yeah, like community college, I remember like clubs are like non-existent. I remember there was a political science club, but it had like no leadership. I remember I went there once, and I was just like, oh, this is just so like disorganized. And I guess I could take it upon myself, be like, I'm going to organize this, but I'm like, no, I'm all right. I'll just wait.
I feel like I'm a bit too much of a political radical to lead a community college. Like,
Well, I mean, community colleges especially, I mean, college in general, you're gonna get people with very radical views.
yeah, but very different ones.
Yeah,
It'd
or
be
you
hard
can
to-
also get the Obama Democrats or the.
Ah,
They're certainly there too. They're
God,
there.
that would just be me
The milk
explaining.
toast people are there too.
God, that
the
would just
centrists.
that would just be me explaining shit
Yeah.
about like power.
But I mean, you're there for a reason, right? You're there to talk about politics or to get people to come over. You get like a local mayor or city council member, But yeah, like on the community college level, I feel like there's not really as many opportunities.
What if you're a community
sucks.
college? Because you just let everybody in.
We need that money.
That's what you said last night on the corner.
Yes, I need the money. Like, bring on the Yeah.
Things that I was a part of. There is a bit of a stigma with transfer students that
Yeah.
you were not, you weren't there on campus long enough.
Oh,
I
see, that was
encountered
a
a lot
really
of
big
people.
problem with UCLA and a lot of people in their there's people, I think, was it in their journalist department, like the people who do the school with paper and stuff. There were some transfer students who felt like they didn't get a position or a role because they weren't seen as worth it or as into the school's culture as somebody who's there for 4 years. There could be somebody who was there. It's their second year, but it's a transfer student's fourth, like their last year there, but they weren't seen as valuable as somebody who was there from the beginning. Even though you may have more skills, you may have more like a better like resume.
There's an
type.
argument you have a little more drive.
Yeah,
I wouldn't say you have a whole lot more, but I would argue there's a little more there because you got to claw your way
yeah.
up.
Like you worked hard to defeat the stigma that you're going to be there in community college forever. You did all that. You got to the school. You ripped your way out of the muck.
Then you're
And
treated
then-
like someone
Yeah,
who
then you're
never
treated
did.
as like as a shitty like transfer student with less worth. Just because you could have also done it because you didn't want to pay tens of thousands
to
'Cause-
do general
yeah.
fucking
In
A.
a way, it is sort of. It
Oh
is
my
also poor shame.
fucking
Because
God.
it's like, hey, you couldn't afford it.
Oh,
Well, you're not worth being here. So
oh
you
my
have to
god.
leave.
Oh my god. I have the thing that gave me an aneurysm thinking about it. Okay, so you know the biggest scam about college? The thing they don't tell you because it's super fucking technical and people usually forget by the time they've been out of college for a couple years? Some of those fucking classes don't count.
Yeah.
These are GEs. These are classes you took in fucking high school.
So
And they don't count. If you the community college versions of them sometimes don't count.
yeah, you'd
Yeah,
have to check with the school. You'd
You
have
will
to check
take
this
the
for.
same class
Yeah.
3 fucking times. High school, community,
Yeah.
then your fucking the lower division version of it in your uni. It's so fucking
So
stupid.
on the anti-college side, I can see that they can say like, oh well, it isn't streamlined,
Fuck.
and that sometimes their counselors do fuck up.
They don't communicate with
sometimes,
each other
yeah.
either. Half the time, if they don't communicate
Yeah.
with each other, if they actually do,
I mean,
then they don't accept the other school. They communicate how they don't accept shit. Like that's
Yeah.
it. You either don't communicate or you don't accept. It's one of the two.
And the thing is, yeah, well, yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
And there's also like there's benefits to going to like instead of transferring, just going to a 4-year school, and that is sometimes there's programs and classes and stuff there that they intended for first or second years to take, but that you're taking in your 3rd year because you didn't go to a 4-year college in the beginning.
It's kind of weird too because you're with people who are a bit younger than you, so you kind of look like you're the dumb
they
one.
also have like more knowledge in subjects because you weren't there from the beginning. You didn't pay the tens of thousands to get there right from the get-go.
Yeah, you are kind of working backwards there.
Yeah, so you have to work harder, take more classes because some of them didn't transfer. You likely weren't able to take as many classes as well.
No.
Yeah.
People who would discuss feeling imposter syndrome or feeling like they weren't good enough to be at a school like UCLA, that they couldn't do as well as the people who had been there all 4 years. And I definitely felt that feeling sometimes as well.
Can the disagreeers step forward?
Pointing at yourself the whole
Great
time.
campus though. Love
There
that
was no
inverted
expectation
goal.
for me to go to college whatsoever. So it was really my personal decision to go. I saw a lot of poverty like in my community, in my neighborhood. And so how do I avoid this situation as an adult? There was no plan B for me. So it was like, if I don't do it, I'm going back to my hometown and I'll be working at a factory somewhere, or I can do it and, see what happens.
College's use of affirmative action is problematic.
Private college.
So
Maybe.
my personal experience with affirmative action, when I went to the PWI, I was chosen pretty much based on affirmative action. There was a lot of heavy marketing, hey, come to our school, come to our school. Affirmative action can be problematic in the sense that when these students reach campus, there is no place for them.
Yeah, it's like, okay, they have clubs, they have other people that they could reach out to, but it's more like once we get you in, you're on your own. You
You're on
gotta
your
figure
own.
out by yourself. And I also think it's being problematic when it comes to society,
Yeah.
because now you're having a lot of white Americans saying that the only reason this person got into the school was because of this reason.
Especially private institutions, these Ivy League schools, certain types of people attend these schools. If you don't necessarily fit their standards, then once again, you can
Yeah.
be ostracized from that group. My name is Zakia, and I'm pro-college. Not going to college is a privilege depending on who you are and who you know. I feel
well, I
like
wouldn't say-
colleges support my
I would say it's a privilege. Here's the reason. We are lucky because we live in California where they basically give you a free ride.
Yeah.
So a lot
Well,
of
not
states don't
every. I
have
mean, there's
to.
people who are like our lower middle class who don't have the money from their parents, but they make enough to where they don't.
Their
get
family
FAFSA.
makes enough.
Yeah.
Not
but
them, but their family.
their
yeah.
family makes enough
Yeah.
that where they don't get FAFSA, but then they don't make enough to where they can pay it out, so they just take loans.
Yeah.
Which,
Fuck.
they didn't.
True.
They didn't put a high enough standard for FAFSA, or sorry, a low enough standard.
That's true. The problem I think there is that it's like that's what happens when you do mean testing
yeah.
in that kind of way. Like mean testing in general is really bad because
Yeah.
it's like oh, your family has enough to pay for it, but it's like how do you know that family is going to pay for it?
Mhm.
Like and also it's like it's very easy to see whether someone's poor or not because it's generally speaking like a binary. They have a lot of money or they don't. But with with someone who's like middle class where there's a little more gray because like
Or wiggle room.
a little more wiggle room to fuck it up. You don't really know if they're connected to their family. It could just be like they have money, but
Yeah.
like they
and
don't
they could even have a decent amount of money, but they have so much debt that they don't because every month they're paying a shit ton, and whether it be medical debt, credit card debt, car debt, house debt.
We're still better than a lot of states though with the free college.
Yeah,
like
we're still
the vast
better than a lot of
majority.
states. But I think it's also people who don't go to college because they're working, like because their family doesn't have money.
Yeah,
There's
that's-
people who just
yeah.
get like trapped in the bind of my family needs money, they need to be able to pay rent, and I'm not just going to leave them high and dry. I'm going to go and work at the local Northgate. I'm going to go work. Sometimes, like back in the day, it was like working in the fields, working,
And if you work,
traveling to Fresno to work on like with farm. But like
if
it's
you
just-
go to college, that is basically a job that you pay to go to. So yeah, of course, the benefits you learn something, but it as a living, as a part of your life, it's a job you pay to do.
yeah,
It's and you feasibly can't have a full-time job and be a full-time. I mean, you could. There are some people who are built different who could do that, but most people can't, and that really does bring down the like how many people actually end up attending.
I think you can be a full-time student and be a full-time worker if you were able to get like a job that doesn't interfere with your school, because there's a bunch of jobs like if you work somewhere like Food Plus that they'll be in constant conflict with your schooling, and they'll just basically they'll try to make you choose whether
The
it's school or
shitty
your
minimum
job.
wage job or your future.
Yeah, it's
Pick.
like, and they really. I remember talking to like a
Jesus.
guy there, and he's like, "Oh, I had to drop like a couple classes because they kept giving him a bunch of hours, and they kept threatening if you don't take up the hours, then we'll cut you." But he needs at least some hours to live, and so even if you have a job, then you want to make it work with your full time status as a student, and they'll just come into conflict because you have a
Shitty
manager, and they
Maybe
want you
it's
to
a
work.
shit employee.
Yeah.
Minorities depending on where you are. For me personally, I'm from Baltimore. There were opportunities for minorities. Of course, it's a majority minority city.
Majority
if I
minority,
was in another
sorority,
state that was maybe more
conformity.
conservative or predominantly white, I do feel like I would not have had as many opportunities.
A house?
Ah, you look
Which one do you
like
think is
smoke
worth
meth.
He looks like a
Well,
fish.
definitely not the house because it not only costs.
I go swimming in that. I go swimming in that pool when
Yeah.
no one's looking.
Naked.
Naked with my gills out.
Oh dear. Yeah, like the deep.
Meritocracy can't exist in the same place where you have nepotism and legacies and all of that.
Yeah.
But there's always some sort of an action involved in getting people into universities. I personally know someone who attended classes at a certain Ivy League university with a future president. And he was a terrible student, but of course he got in because he was legacy and his family donated a building.
That is a
So
really fucked up
that's
thing
how
where
you become
like
president. That's
on
America.
applications they'll ask you like, do you have somebody in your family that that went here? They'll just be like, hey, you get preference because we know you were here. We know you're going to be a decent student, but you
We
don't
know
that.
that someone we might get an extra building out of it.
Yeah,
maybe.
that's also true. You make an extra building out of it. People will pay for a new library or a new like study hall, something.
And you take my kid. He's a piece of shit, but like, there's a building. We'll give you a building.
And that's another like it's just and they get preference.
You
They've
want
got
new
preference all the
computers?
time. But that's the thing. That's the thing conservatives won't care about. They don't care if you got in because you're a legacy person.
They never talk. Yeah, now
Yeah.
that you mention it,
They all
these people
care-
always talk about meritocracy. They never bring up nepotism.
Yeah, they never do it because that's the thing. They don't care about really it being a meritocracy. They just care if there isn't
Keep
a
the
lot
polls
of minority
out.
folks in the building.
Keep the pores out.
Yeah, it's fucked.
Affirmative action is good to give people an opportunity who wouldn't otherwise have it.
I think the intention is good, and you can't speak to intention when the system looks the way it does.
We also have to factor in the aspect of finances and money and schools making money. And when we're talking about intention, yes, there might be one professor that's like, oh, I'm so glad you're here. But that doesn't speak for the entire university. That doesn't speak for the board. Is the intention to give us minorities an opportunity, or is the intention to not hear complaints?
To boost their numbers.
Shut up, minority. We sent 5 of you to class.
People talk about affirmative action all the time, but it's sort of blown out of proportion about how much affirmative action there really is. Like, I don't know if you ever heard of Bakke versus, I think it was UC Regents.
No.
Like, we've had a Supreme Court case about it. And it was
Shit, my bad.
basically, I think it was their,
What was it?
their medical, Bakke versus UC Regents.
I'm totally sure I fucked this up, but
It's double K, but it's all right. Yeah.
oh,
Bakke versus UC Regents. And a Supreme Court case, I think it was with their medical school.
oh yeah,
where-
it's a great website. Sorry
Yeah.
to cut you off, but it's a really good website for like law.
Yeah. A 35-year-old man applying for the medical school at Davis, rejected both times. The school reserved 16 places in each entry class of 100 for qualified minorities. And it was a really big problem where you'll have a bunch of minorities who qualified, who passed the test, who can't do it. But there's just a lot of white people that just had higher scores. And the thing is, who are these people? A lot of them had parents who went to the UC school system that were legacy parents that also bumped their entrance scores, their application scores. There's also ones who are sons or daughters of doctors, and so they also had the advantage. But there's a bunch of minority students who never had parents who were doctors, who never had legacy, like there aren't legacy students whose parents went to UC system. They're just people who came from poor neighborhoods, who came from a lower income, and they worked their way up to be qualified to be there.
I have
But
a
because
hot
there's
take.
people who started so ahead in life that they're just always going to have a better score than them.
I have
And there
a
were
hot
so
take.
many of them that just it didn't matter how hard you worked because they were already there.
Here's how I feel about affirmative action,
Mhm.
and I'll put it like this. I firmly believe you could make anybody do anything with enough time, with enough training, and enough commitment. You could turn the fattest couch slob into a Spec Force soldier given enough time. You could turn that same Spec Forcer into one of the best coders if given enough time and given enough effort. So what that means for me is, even if there was a slight discrepancy, this guy, it says here, Blake's qualifications exceeded those, Bake's qualifications exceeded those of any other minority students in the last 2 years.
Yeah.
I don't think that matters, because if the professors are, if they're competent in the ways that we assume they are, they're going to get those other students up to snuff. Like, I firmly believe that, unless the discrepancy was a massive, like,
and that's also another thing.
you know?
Just because you did good on your LSAT or any other test, that doesn't mean that you're going to be a good doctor or a good lawyer. They're just entrance exams.
But that goes into my feeling on affirmative action. Like, if people from certain groups are never going to get the opportunity otherwise, then sure, fuck it, like, let them. Because at this point, it's about avoiding groupthink in fields. I think that would be a better consequence of affirmative action than not having it, because like, we kind of suffer from groupthink now. Like, when even now I'm in university, like currently we both are, and there is a lot of groupthink in university, like at all levels of it, and that's because a lot of the same, like, I hate to say it, same kinds of people show up in all these fields, and they usually are the people who hold power in those fields. Like, I'll give you an example, so I'm not too vague. I covered my school's a CS, I'm not going to say which one, but a CSU's faculty department heads, or it's board members. It's board members, and most of them came from money. I think for even the community college we went to, all the board of trustees, the people who basically are the little government of the school, all came from money. All of them did, either from a mixture of private, public work, full-on private work, NGO work, usually from some kind of big money role. These are not people from and this is in California, so you do get a little bit of difference. Like, you get a little Asian, a little bit of Mexican, a little bit of white, obviously. We have a more diverse overall group, but in terms of the kind of people they are, they tend to be upper middle class, or as they say, most qualified people, and that's the problem. They're usually legacies. So at least that's my takeaway from it. So, like, yeah, it's the groupthink that we're suffering from. I think that's why, like, people also talk about how schools don't change their policies and shit. It's because, these people are being ran by the same people. So I think affirmative action might address it. Might. That's why I like the idea in principle. Anyway.
And also what came out of that case was you couldn't do quotas.
And
And, like, let's say you have your entrance, like, applications.
Yeah.
What they could do is, if you're a minority, you get like a few extra points, like a little bit. So basically, if you had a white person and like minority person who were basically the same, if like the minority person would get, just a little bit more points. So a little, just tip the scales just a little bit.
Put a little bit.
Just a little bit. But if you're a private school, you don't have to follow the same rules. If you're a private school, you could be like much more biased. Which people talk about UCLA affirmative action, all these private schools. All these public schools, they're all doing affirmative action. Like, they have a much, much higher standard to follow. Like, they have a much stronger standard to follow, like, equality than a private school, which would be like Harvard or Stanford or Yale, right?
Because they're like government ran, right?
Yeah, like if you have a government ran school, they can't be as blatant.
Yeah.
So if you're private, you can do a lot more.
All you ever wanted, dude.
Their diversity levels.
Well, I actually think about it differently. I think affirmative action, definitely works against nepotism. And I feel like if it were no affirmative action, a lot of black students wouldn't be able to go to PWIs. And so I agree that, once you get there, there is a difficulty being a student of color on a predominantly white institution. With that position, it also was the other side that would say that same thing. They would say, we won't let you in because you won't be a good fit here, because you won't fit the culture. And that's the way that they would use to bar people from being able to go. And so, I won't say like it's better for them to turn us away because they don't have the resources. Like, let me get there and let me figure that out for myself versus you telling me that I won't be a good fit there. And that's what affirmative action allows. And I also will say, like, white women benefit from affirmative action more than any other minority group. It's not necessarily about, students of color specifically being allowed on campus. It's about, minorities being allowed.
A degree doesn't qualify you
Women
for most
suck.
jobs.
Degree doesn't qualify you for most.
I mean,
Uh,
statistically, yeah.
There's a lot of jobs that are barred because you don't have a degree.
Well, like
It's-
statistically, though, that makes sense. If
Yeah.
you get like a degree in electrician, I don't think I
No,
trust
it
you
doesn't.
flying a plane.
Even if you get a degree as a lawyer, you're not ready to be a lawyer. You need to go through with the firm and have somebody guide you and basically be an apprentice. Like, and that's also with like any job. You can be a policy analyst and you get a degree in policy, and like you don't really, you're not really qualified per se. But if you're just talking about hitting a marker on the application, like what they want, like just like what the employer.
we want
wants
a
you to have.
freshman lawyer with 4 years
Yeah.
of legal experience.
You know, job market. You know, exactly.
Having that
true,
listed
but-
as a qualification and a
You would hope,
requirement kind
but
of is
no.
like a gatekeeping thing more so than who's going to perform the best on the job. I'm Michelle, and I'm anti-college. I became anti-college when I graduated high school valedictorian, and I realized
You got
that
screwed.
continuing on
I don't even need to
Dude.
hear the rest of your story. You got
God.
screwed. You want to know
Dude,
why
you
they got
can,
screwed?
You can fail in middle school. You can fail in
High school. It don't matter.
Yeah.
Don't give a shit. You put in all that time in it. You probably worked yourself into the ground.
Yeah,
Probably worked a few years off your life because they really do stress those kids a lot.
they do. Dude, like,
And
some of them end up killing themselves. 'cause
You
they go through
got
so much
nothing.
stress.
You got
Yeah.
nothing for it. Let's see.
with college would be a debt sentence. My godmother actually gave me a book called The Education of Millionaires, and
Oh my
she
God.
hadn't read the book in advance, so she kind of thought it was going to encourage me to invest in college. But what the book actually did was explain the stories of a lot of people who became millionaires without a formal education.
Piece trap forever.
Most companies don't take the time to like read that resume. They feed it through a machine. If you
Yeah.
talk the talk
Yeah.
and know certain people,
you feed it through a
Oh
machine.
God, I'm gonna want to rant on it. That shit just makes
They
me
do,
angry.
and that's the thing. One of the one of the things they look for is your degree. That's one of the.
I'm gonna want
the
to talk
tick
about
you
it.
did, like,
Oh my
right off.
God, dude, I'll talk about it for 30 minutes.
Yes.
to jimmy your way in there. You don't really need the
We need to get through
qualifications
this video
to do the job.
eventually.
People who have the qualifications don't get the job.
I've been job hunting over the last couple months. I started like a spreadsheet
I'm
where
gonna
I was
speed up a
putting
little
how many of
more.
them are asking for X amount of years of experience. Almost all of them
All
were
of them?
college degree needed. I still even got
Yeah.
like maybe 3 or 4 for every 40 that I applied to.
I'm originally
Yeah.
from Miami, and I used to work for the county, and I used to work for social events. And now that I've moved here, it's really hard for me to transition towards the same field because I tell people, hey, look, I used to run football tournaments, I used to host food drives, but because I don't have a
Okay.
degree in marketing or in event coordination, people, like you said, when I put on Indeed, they say, hey, you need a degree to get in. But because
You
I don't
do
have that
LinkedIn.
degree, I'm not even allowed to.
LinkedIn's better.
You don't have like, I mean, no, I was just gonna ask, like, you don't have like people who recommend you and shit. Like,
Well, even if you have the recommendations, there's just like a lot of places they
Well,
just have that as a requirement as a degree, and it's almost like a status thing.
well, to be fair, I
Yeah.
also partially think that's the computer's fault.
Well, I mean, somebody had to set the computer to that. Like a manager, a person who's overlording the programmer
Yeah.
would have to tell them, "Hey, degree needs to be it has to be a requirement."
Yeah, but then people who might actually be qualified wash
Yeah.
through.
Well, I mean, I don't think the higher managers. I don't think they care.
yeah, because
like, I don't-
statistically they'll get somebody.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
In the door. My name is Kenny, and I'm pro-college. Going to college is really important to me.
Also, I'm gonna just go on a limb because I didn't want to talk about it for 30 minutes, but man, like those places that really do just use algorithm resumes, and
Well, I mean, they automated their hiring process. So
that's why they didn't have workers for a year and a half.
well, you know.
Sucks to suck.
To me because I've had a long
People
line of
aren't
family
working.
members who have been educators. My mom, who passed away from cancer, was a teacher, and when she came
Yeah,
to this
the
country,
fucking Cal 9000 said they weren't. Great.
Yeah.
the
They
only
weren't
dream that she had for me was to go to college. In the early stages of me going to school, it felt like a very hard burden to carry. The fact that I don't know what I want to do when I go to school, but I just have to do it because it's somebody else's wishes.
Yeah.
But eventually, when I started growing up and realizing that I have my own reasons for going to college, and I, on top of that as well, can fulfill my mom's dream, was something that really kind of pushed me towards wanting to continue my education and going to school.
All student loan debt should be forgiven.
Yeah, shouldn't
Yeah.
exist.
Shouldn't.
I
Yeah.
remember I think my dad was telling me about how
It's
he talks
crazy
to
to
some
me
dude
that
from
you
Spain,
go for 4
and
years
he's like,
and-
"Yeah, they're just paying for my school," and I'm like, "Oh, that's cool."
Yeah. I mean, it's like.
Yeah.
It's like I put it to you like this. You know what? I'll bite the hardest bullet on
Yeah.
free education. People say like, oh, what about people who get gender study degrees or underwater basket weaving? Well, you know what? There's a concept called the Black Swan event. It's an event where people don't know it happens, but the thing that it creates is something we can't live without. Imagine what computers looked like pre-1940s. Now I get it. Basket weaving might not turn into that. It probably won't. But you never fucking know. Keep an open mind. We shouldn't, like, it's innovation is innovation, right? Like, market to drive innovation, not the will of a state. So when you talk about free education and putting qualifiers on it, you're putting qualifiers on innovation. You're saying that the state needs to like push certain types of innovation. Like, just let the market decide. Just, we pay for everybody's, and we'll reap the benefits over time. Like, that's how this works, right? Like,
there's also a lot of students who go to college and they don't finish for whatever reason, whether they need to be family member got sick, the healthcare system's shitty, so maybe they got sick. They have to pay for their loans. Nobody's there to take care of their family if they need a like a nursing home to go to. They, like, a bunch of reasons could happen where they drop out and they still got to pay the loans.
my reason's better.
Oh yeah, basket weaving's gonna save the U.S.
It will.
You know,
One weaved basket
even
at a
then,
time.
like, who's doing basket weaving? Typically, it isn't somebody who's poor who's doing basket weaving. Typically, if you're part of a lower income, you're probably doing something a bit more utilitarian, or you're going into political science.
Or you're killing yourself.
Yep.
All right, never mind.
You know,
Moving
all that
on.
stress.
Play.
And
we're
you're
just kidding, in
hundreds of
Roblox,
thousands of dollars in
Roblox.
debt, and you might actually meet all of
Minecraft,
the payments,
they're on
and you
us.
still have like double to pay. A really popular payment plan that we've been seeing, Purdue University started doing this. It's called income share agreements. So instead of paying for your degree up front, if college actually helps you.
I want to read.
Oh, this is like the bullshit. This is, oh god. If college actually helps you, I know what they're gonna say. I've seen it.
Hold on, let me just take this off. You want to explain it?
So, well, you can let her finish what she was gonna say. Well, actually, they have right there, income share.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to read.
Yeah.
It's a financial structure with individual organization, it's straw.
Yeah, a financial
Actually, on my desk.
structure in which an individual or organization provides something of value to a recipient who, in exchange, agrees to pay back percentage of their income for a fixed number of years.
What the fuck? Okay.
So
I'm too
basically, if
stupid
they help you
explaining
land a job, and you land the job, then you have to pay more back. But if you don't land a job, then you get to pay less.
So so I'm guessing that's what the provide something of value stipulation is.
So, you know, like, there's a lot of coding academies that basically say if we land you a job, or if you get a job after you get out, then you can start paying. If you don't get a job, then you don't pay, or you pay a lot less.
Got you.
And so I guess she's saying that Purdue is starting to do that. But here's the fucking thing: what counts as a job? Does McDonald's count as a job? Technically counts as a job. You don't have to get a job in the field that what your degree is for. But
read the fine print,
because they're looking for
motherfucker.
income. That you got a source of income after you left college. The regulations will be so thin for what counts. It can be something that cannot support your loan, but it's a job. So now you have to pay, and you probably have to pay more now because they put this stipulation that you needed a job to pay back.
You land that job, you start to pay a small percentage of your salary over the span of a few years, and after 5, 6, 7 years, whatever percentage you pay, great. If not, and you're not making a lot of money, then like the college actually failed you in helping you get that career that was supposed to in the first place.
I like that. It puts accountability
Slightly
on the
better.
institution where.
Slightly better.
Slightly, but
I hope.
wait, what? I'm too stupid.
Okay, so what you're saying is that if you don't make a certain income amount by that time,
Oh,
Then-
I've heard that one.
yeah,
That's a common one.
so that's a better regulation. However, I know that there's also a lot of things like the PSLF law.
A variant of that I've heard. Oh, sorry to cut you off. I was gonna just
Well, I was
add.
just gonna say, like, there's also a lot of stipulations that happen, or if you don't follow it, you know,
Yeah.
on every level you get cut off from the system, like the PSLF loan system, where they say basically if you pay every month, every payment for the next 10 years, and you're working in a qualified area, then all of your loans are forgiven. But if you miss just one payment, you're cut from the system. And I
So-
wonder if they'll also have a lot of like fine print laws and like regulations in that system where they say if you miss one loan, even if you're right there at the end, you get cut from the system and you have to pay in full.
So I think I've heard a variation of this. Is it like when, if you don't have a job within like X
Yeah.
amount of time, that type of thing, right? Or like when they don't have like, or a certain amount of income by a certain time, something
So
like
I guess
that.
she's saying that it's income based. That like
I've heard variants of it where it's income. I've heard variants of it being time.
yeah.
I've heard it. Yeah. Okay. Yeah,
But
I mean
even
that
then,
just
what's their
sounds.
standard for income? Like
That just sounds like they just got you on it. Like They just-
technicality.
they just got. Well, like, it sounds like they got you by the balls, like the bank.
Well, I mean,
It's like
they
the
always
same-
had you by the balls. They're
Yeah.
just changing how they're holding it. This-
Well, they're giving you the illusion of you having
Yeah.
a chance, but yeah, I mean,
the
like,
mysterious hand.
oh, we made you work at McDonald's and pay off your $20,000 in
Instead of
rent,
making 30,000,
5% interest each year.
you're making at least 50,000. but your debt from a high in root and tune school like Purdue gave you over 150K debt, like, yes, your 50K salary. Ooh, is gonna.
Well, you know what costs less? A rope.
A rope, yeah.
In Roblox.
You wonder why a lot of people in America have antidepressants.
It costs 2 leathers. It costs only 2 leathers in Minecraft to make a rope.
Only 2 leathers in Minecraft. Yeah,
and some sticky goo from one of those cube monsters.
Yeah, the goop slime balls.
The goop slimes.
And after 5, 6, 7 years, whatever percentage you pay, great. If not, and you're not making a lot of money, then like the college actually failed you in helping you get that career that it was supposed to in the first place.
There's accountability on the institution where it should be,
Absolutely.
not the borrower.
It's very easy to be like, well, in like the Nordic countries, you pay $5 and you get your degree. Like, it's easy, but it's different here, and it has been, and it will be unless some big change happens. But I don't know what that is. I don't know how do we address the millennials who went through college and have racked up billions in debt, and how do we change it to make it better for our future generations too?
And I really think
Biden, make it free for all public.
Well,
schools.
I think what she was saying was like, what would the people who had to pay for it feel? And personally, I hate that logic because it's like I had to suffer through it, so why doesn't everyone else do? It's like
it's a very regressive mentality. Like I understand the hatred. I understand it's like I had to do
they
so
had it
much.
better.
But the thing is, it's like, why do you want the children to suffer? That's my big problem.
It's
like,
not necessary.
Yeah, it's just you're blinded by your pain.
That's
really
a fucking great way to put it.
Yeah, you're blinded by your pain. You think because you went through this painful situation that everybody needs to feel the pain, and it's like we don't have to pass the burden on to the next generation. Like you just
imagine if no one had to go through that again.
Yeah,
wouldn't that be better?
Mm-hmm.
Like, wouldn't that be the alternative that we all think is better? Like, why? Yeah, like why is this like a ritual? Like this just sounds like ritual now. Like, we cut off fingers back in the day, so like these youngins ain't cutting their fingers off anymore. It's like, what the fuck? Like, stop cutting off fingers.
Yeah. But no, they're blinded, and I understand that like something like that you had to pay so much, give up so much. It's
fucked.
Dude, this guy has a badass beard. Kind of like it. It's like it's kind of like an Abe Lincoln beard, but yeah.
It should be canceled just because of the pretenses in which the loans were actually given out. I'm like, it's literally the definition of predatory lending in terms of, giving thousands of dollars to someone with no credit score. Yeah. And so, when they get those loans and they
Well, I gave them collateral.
Yeah.
Oh god, that's another form of debt. That's so.
Yeah, you gave them everything that you had that ever was worth anything, and then they're like, "We're gonna keep it.
We're gonna take your shit." Like.
Yeah.
don't really understand like the interest is racking up, and then 6 months after you graduate, and whether you have a job or not, you're gonna have to start paying them back.
Why, y'all? What's going on?
My disagreement is in the way that it's handled. There's this particular scam which is widespread. People have gotten caught up in other scams, and those are not just immediately forgiven. I do understand that it's kind of like it's a different situation because of how much pressure
Should be forgiven.
was placed upon
Also,
you getting into
this is a public scam. It's something that the state government and the federal government have done.
the scam, even
Sadly,
governmental
May
pressure
is a
as well,
federal
which is why
loan.
they bear some responsibility in it.
I was a victim of
That
one
just
of
makes
these
me
scams.
want to put a big old American flag for sticking it to the libs.
Yes. It's like if you get fucked by a pyramid scheme, that's a private scam.
Well, guess what? Guess what? Who gets stuck by that? Liberals who go to college. So really, we're just sticking it to the liberals.
Oh.
One dead motherfucker at a time.
I took a few loans out, and then my last year, I didn't have enough, and so I took a $5K loan, and that one was the worst one. Like, what held me back from stepping forward was that we're all, some people might have taken out that loan, gone to college, and now they're making tons of money that they can afford to pay it back. If somebody's capable of contributing, then why wouldn't they? I'm Daniel, and I'm anti-college. I took a lot of different classes while I was in art school, and I gained, I guess, a wider set of skills than my other brother did. The thing that felt unfair to me was that it cost the same for us to go through college, yet I got a better return on my schooling than he did, and he still has to pay the same amount that I was having to pay. If someone's unsure of their career path, is it worth them going hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt when they don't know what they're gonna do with their life?
College campuses are radicalizing young people.
Because I was interpreting that as the universities influencing people, but I don't think that's the case. I think people who might have...
College campuses are radicalizing young people. Like, I don't necessarily... Like I go to UCLA, and I've had I think I've only had one professor that was like an anarchist, and the other ones were like centrist Democrats.
In journalism,
I was surprised. Like all these conservatives, they're like, you go there, and they're just gonna make you into a fucking transgender socialist. I'm like, well, no.
Nah, even my journalist teacher, where you kind of would expect shit like that, Nah, it's pretty old-fashioned Democrat, Bill Clinton type.
Maybe there is, but like I haven't seen it. I'm a political science major. Like I'm primed for that shit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's either journalism or fucking political science. It really is only those two, right?
Or
'Cause those are the
sociology.
stereotype. Oh,
Or sociology.
okay, sociology. Okay, I think I've been in one.
Yeah.
Oh my god, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, sociology, you got us there. But journalism and political science are not.
Also, one
Yeah.
reason why you may become radical when you're in this time. is
Material
because
conditions.
Material conditions. When you become a college student, most of the time, you're poor, and you got even more poor, or you were of middle income and you became poor because you had to go to school. So you're not able to work as much to get income, and now you have to spend a bunch of money at school for books, for transportation, commuting every day, spending money on gas.
Think about
parking,
books for a
all these
second.
things, and you're not able to work full time.
I know people talk about this a lot, but think about books for a second. You know, it's totally optional for like I've done research on this where books like it's totally optional for people to go through and get like the free books. But the problem with getting like those free textbooks, there is actually a genuine problem with getting free text. Usually the money that is you give them for buying those textbooks usually goes to the people who write the book, because generally it's a lot of people who write these books. So it's to pay those people off, and the question is like, you want those people to work for free. I'm not defending the practice because they do it every year.
I was gonna say like some of the books are made by your professor.
Yeah.
And that's how they get their money. And
Yeah.
there's a lot of professors that are part-time. In California, the majority of professors are now part-time adjuncts. And also even at places like UCLA, you'll have a professor who's on welfare, who's taking food stamps.
It's
'cause
really
they're
fucked
paid
up.
shitty. And it's not just the social sciences like political science. There was just a job offering for a biology professor with a few years of experience, and just a few years of experience teaching. They probably have more years of experience in doing research, and it was supposed to be an unpaid position. Just, get your dick wet for an extra year on top of your 3-4 years, on top of your 8-year PhD.
Soaked in shit. Yeah. Okay.
Have certain beliefs are going to college and just spreading it to their peers. So in that regard, I would say college campuses are contributing to that.
When you see a headline and you see that a college is pursuing this or it's agreeing with this, I feel like it has a lot more damage towards the story, as if the school is promoting this type of behavior. And I feel like because they notice that a lot of people are getting a lot of attention for those specific schools, it's like, okay, let's give them more incentive to do it because it's helping our name get out there.
If you're not, in these spaces where you're hearing a lot of arguments from every side, it's easy to be like, well, that doesn't apply to me, so why would I care? I think for me, at least being in a college environment, I was forced to see these things and more exposed than I would have been if I hadn't gone.
When I heard the word radical, I paused it for a second because I think
Something, right? Like
you're
just
exposed.
you're just exposed to more views, and you're no longer just stuck to the shit that your parents give you or the stuff on the news. That you have the ability to explore and be more of a free thinker and not be stuck with your inner culture, which is sort of ironic because that's what the conservatives want, right? They don't want you to go to college and see all these new views. They'd rather you be stuck with the bump fucks in your county belief, and maybe they're not bump fucks, but they could be bump fucks. But what I do know is you're stuck there.
It's a flavor of groupthink.
Yeah, it's a flavor of groupthink that they want to instill in you. And the thing is, when you're in college, you're not there for all of your life, but you're in your city for all of your life. You're stuck in your surroundings. But at least in college, you're exposed. You have the ability to read every, if not most.
Sounds
views.
pretty radical.
it has like a negative connotation just in the media, and so I feel like when you hear people say
That's
radical anything, you're
college
like,
right there,
you know,
guys.
like, okay, that sounds like something bad. I feel like it's really the education, like they're learning more about the society and about the history of the government in America, and so that does sometimes make you angry and makes you want to speak out and, you know, become an activist for a certain topic or position.
Also, I think you find out
In
all
my
of
mind,
that
though, it's
shit.
no different than what algorithms are perpetuating on social media right now. You know, if you're on Twitter, you're going to be following people that are within your space, and you're going to be seeing that content. And I think that's actually playing more of a role in radicalizing
So
and
you need college
doing more in the
campuses to
political
create
space than what
Jan
we're actually seeing at
6.
college.
Like, colleges didn't create the coup d'etat that Republicans tried to do.
No, social media.
Yeah, social media. It's a big part of radicalization.
Yeah, you know what? I gotta actually agree with this woman, Mahik. I forgot to say your name, but yeah, no, actually the biggest reason why social media is a better radicalizer than any college campus is because something you can do in social media that you can't do in a college campus is, at least not as directly, as you can influence, like you can directly pump your own material into social media in a way that wouldn't be seen as government material. Like if the government wanted to influence people on social media, they could do it in ways that no one would even know.
Yeah.
During the I know people use this a lot, but in the 2016 elections, random dudes from Eastern Europe would just post comments. They had, they had quotas, and some people would do it for fun, and it's it, and you would never know if that person was just a legitimate troll or had a larger political interest. That's the shitty part.
Yeah, I mean, it also happens like countries that do that to each other. There's other countries that go to Facebook and they create like a right wing group that you find out isn't even in America, like the people who created it, or a liberal group. It happened with both Bernie and Trump, with Hillary, and it just
colleges are harder to touch because like people are actively encouraged to question on campuses, which means if they're told any information, even if it's by a professor, there's always at least a little bit of questioning and introspection going on. So
at least you're able to see different views.
Mm-hmm.
Like you go on, the fucking thing about social media is that they literally put you in a bubble.
Yeah.
They create just a bunch of mini bubbles that you're part of, and they give you the views that's best for your bubble.
What if they told you that you were a bubble?
Then I'd say, poke me. Let's pop.
Me personally, I grew up in a conservative Christian household. Growing up in those environments, I feel like radicalization, it really starts at home. Yes. It starts with what your parents tell you about people. I think that when we get to college, we're in more of a free space to voice these opinions. And even on social media, there's also a level of anonymity, so people feel more comfortable sharing certain viewpoints. I feel like these things start at home and they're just pushed more to the forefront once you get a little older.
Colleges prioritize making money over providing quality education.
Well, fuck.
You go for it. You go.
Well,
okay. You want to hear him talk?
Yeah, let's hear him talk a little bit.
Okay. We gotta get through the video. We got another.
So we have like
as someone who works at a college, it's a business first, and I see that firsthand. I think it really does come down to the bottom line for a lot of institutions in terms of them making money, and so they will make certain decisions in terms of what will allow us to make more money, what makes us look better as an institute versus necessarily the care of the student being the primary concern.
The teachers that I had at community college were no better or worse than the ones at UCLA. Sometimes better.
Actually, she's talking about UCLA, but let's talk about UCLA because I go to UCLA. Let's see.
They were nicer, they were more approachable, smaller class size, more classes available in community college. When I got to UCLA, I thought, there's one class and it's only at 5 p.m. Are you kidding me? How am I supposed to make a schedule about that? So I kind of realized a lot of things when I got to UCLA that this is not exactly what I thought it would be.
The college that I graduated from, they had a heavy focus on freshmen. It was all about freshmen. Bring in more freshmen because the graduation rate is already so low. Freshmen bring in money, freshmen are there the whole year, and then if they stay, they stay. If they don't, they don't. They were changing all of the dorm buildings to freshman dorms so that only freshmen have housing.
And talk about the quality of dorms too.
Oh,
for the tens of thousands of dollars you're paying.
Terrible.
What is that? How does that make sense?
Oh my god, dude, to live in a fucking dorm, it costs
costs a lot of money.
It costs more than rent.
The thing is, if you live in a dorm, the reason why it's seen as better is because you live right at the school, so you don't have to do any commuting.
You also get to build. I would argue you probably also get to build a community.
Yeah, you also build a community, build a friendship.
Yeah.
But then also you don't have to pay for internet. You don't have to pay for utilities.
Still gotta pay for food though.
Well, yeah. Well, actually, there are programs.
That give you packages.
Yeah, packages.
Packages.
Yeah.
Also, when you look at public institutions and you see the salaries, 90% of the time you're going to see that the highest paid person is the college coach. And that'll show you where the actual money is going to. It's like
during COVID, UCLA, they're like, oh, we can't do classes with this many people because COVID. But let's open up our stadium with hundreds of people.
It makes money.
Over 1,000. Yeah, because it makes the money. It gets schools the most amount of money though. Like college sports, it makes them a shit ton.
To be fair to the colleges though,
and the college athletes aren't even paid much.
If you want to be an economic vampire though, a real these people are vampires.
They are vampires.
So you could argue that the stadium also costs them the most money. Individual building, it probably costs a shitload of money to maintain, to wash, to use, the power. But it does probably cost a lot.
But then all the merchandise.
Yeah, I mean, devil's advocate, they're the devil. No.
You don't have to pay your players a minimum wage.
You don't have to pay them anything.
Yeah.
You live in the hole.
They get a free ride to your school. They get to take one extra class slot.
They get to live in the closet you vacated for them.
Yeah, it's just
millions of dollars more.
They get to eat the leftover bread from dinner.
Every other person that works at the institute. My name is Casey. I am pro college.
They get the last slice of the bread loaf that has only one side that's like bread and the other side's crust. They get that. That's how shitty it is. That's all they get. The crusty end of the loaf.